Hi, welcome to Riders of a Certain Age presents Conversations Beyond the Barn. I'm your host, Fran Severn. Each Tuesday, I chat with people whose lives center around horses in unusual, unexpected ways. These are people who create the richness and variety of the equine world with their fascinating careers, hobbies, and livelihoods. Their stories show their passion for horses and the equine world, and it is a treat for me to share them with you. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this week's Conversations Beyond the Barn. Welcome to this week's edition of Conversations Beyond the Barn. I'm your host, Fran Severn. Finding a way to make a living with horses is a wonderful dream, and it's something all of us have and very few of us ever manage. My guest today is someone who did, does, and is a professional in the horse world. But she's not a rider or a trainer or a breeder. Summer Grace is the owner of Flaxen Mane Media, which provides publicity, promotion, and photographic services for equestrian-focused businesses and events. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on.
Very profound. So many of us grew up around horses and would have loved to have stayed with it, but we've moved on to other fields and careers as we got older and life got in the way. You, however, managed to stay in the saddle, so to speak, for your entire life. Were you always horse mad? Were you come from a horse family?
I do not come from a horse family. Nobody else in my family rides or understands the obsession. I not always. I think I started taking lessons when I was about 7. I had done some pony rides at a birthday party. I'd done some trail rides, and I just asked my parents one day I wanted to ride horses, and they didn't know enough about it to say no at the time, so they said yes. And that was it. There was nothing else I wanted to do. They tried to get me into every other sport, and I had zero interest in anything besides the horses, for anything in my life. So I uh I worked as a working student, from 14 onwards. I was at the barn every weekend while other friends were at the beach and, doing that kind of thing. So work-wise, life-wise, it was all encompassing to me for sure.
So, when you went on to college, were you looking to study equine studies, or did you realize that this is fun, but that's not a way to really survive financially?
Yeah, I definitely would have loved to have gone to a school and done some equine studies. At the time, I was looking at a state, but my dad really wanted me to stay in state, so he decided the cheaper option would be to buy me an off the track thoroughbred, and keep me in state. And I don't think that's worked out to be the cheaper option long term. So I went to school in my hometown, and I graduated with a degree in multimedia journalism because that was something I had started off with a business major, did not like the math section of that. It's not my brain. So, and I had always kind of enjoyed the media aspect. Both my parents are actually in the film and entertainment industry. My dad owns his own production company, and my mom was a hair and makeup artist. So, I liked the hours that I mean, they worked long days, but they made their own schedule. They weren't on a desk job type of situation. And I at the time thought, well, if they don't have to work a 9 to 5, why do I? So I majored in that, hoping to find a way to collaborate that with the horse industry. And I think right out of college, I sent in to apply for an internship for Phelps Media, which was the biggest media company around at the time that I knew of. And they were right there in Wellington. So that's kind of where I grew up, was in Wellington. And so I interned for them for about a year. And that was great. I was at WEF, almost every day. I would show my horse and then take the trailer and the truck back to the parking lot of where the company was and just work the rest of the day and then go pick up the horse and go home.
Well,
And
for the people who aren't familiar with the acronyms, what is WEF?
It's the Winter Equestrian Festival. It's kind of the number one hub spot in the world over the winter for show jumping and hunter jumper stuff. And kind of everybody from all over the globe comes there, and it's a really unique experience. It's like for 4 months out of the year, it's just every horse person is in Wellington. So,
It,
um,
it really is pretty fantastic because sometimes sometimes it's aired so that if
yeah,
you're someplace
yeah,
else, you could watch it and at least vicariously enjoy the adventure.
yeah. We have, we've had hundreds of Olympians there throughout the years, and it was just a really, you know, crazy way to grow up being around that. And it just, made you strive to do more. So I interned there with Phelps, and I interned with Jen Wood Media there, doing the actual media for the horse show itself. And that was all amazing. And then I got the opportunity to actually become a barn manager at a friend's farm in Fort Myers. Some friends of mine I'd known for a long time, they started up a barn there, and I agreed to go with them and start that. I kind of thought it would be like a 6-month project. I ended up staying for 2 years. So that's how it goes, right? I had 25 horses at the towards the end of it. It was a long job, and it was fantastic, and I'm still friends with all of them. But kind of some other elements of it fell apart, and I just decided, long term it wasn't really going to be sustainable for me and for what I wanted.
Sure.
So I came back to Wellington and started working with the media people at WEF again. Just kind of trying to figure out what I wanted to do as the next step and what would allow me to have a little more freedom for travel and for my horse, and also a little bit more money without working 18-hour days.
Yeah. There was an impetus for you to finally go out on your own because you probably could have stayed working for people who obviously respected and wanted you, but there was a little impetus to kind of make yourself grow a little bit and move into a different direction.
There was, yeah. I really I had a horse at the time that was, he was really special to me. And he was kind of my everything when I left that job. A lot of that job had been my personal relationship, had been, my friends. And so I was a little bit down in the dumps when I left that. And he was kind of my main focus, besides the work that I was doing, which I knew was going to kind of come to an end towards the end of WEF. And then he actually passed away really suddenly in
Mm.
April, of that year. And it was a big moment of, what do I do now? Do I stay in the horses at all? What do I do to fill my time and to fill my passion and give me something to work towards? Because he had been what I had been working towards for 7 years. So I kind of just decided, let's try to do this thing on our own. Let's try to, make our own business like both of my parents had done. They both own their own business. And if it failed, well, at that point, I kind of already thought I'd had the worst that could happen to me when he passed away. So, the fear of that was not. I was like, I can pivot and change if I need to. But I really wanted to do something that would help me to live more fully and in his honor too. And that's also why I named the company Flaxen Mane Media, because he had a flaxen mane and tail, and we had kind of the same color hair. It was, our little trademark thing. So I couldn't think of a better name for the business than to, it be in his memory.
And it's distinctive too that they
Yeah.
think of that, they'll know of you. Now, most of us, if you think about starting a business, you have a store, you have an inventory, you have predictable customers looking for a certain thing, but your field is very different. So how do you find clients and what are the things that you do? And what does publicity mean? What does releases, reels, what does all that mean to your clients? And how do you find them?
Yeah, so I think as far as finding clients and finding, different jobs, it's all about a lot of it's who you know. That's for sure one. I met a lot of people when I was interning at those two positions, and stayed in touch with them, and made sure that if they needed something, they knew that I was available and I was willing to jump in any position. So that's the other thing I would say is take everything that's offered to you in that first startup time. There was a lot of jobs that I did that maybe wasn't where I saw the company going long term. But it got a foot in the door with other people, with new shows, and just expanded my knowledge so that, if I needed to do something in that capacity, I could. And made me useful to people. They would say, "Oh yeah, Summer's great. She can just jump in." I didn't have really anything tying me down at the time. I didn't have a horse. I didn't have kids or a husband or anything. And so I was just like, I have camera will. And so I've kind of refined the business a little bit at this point. What I like to say we really focus on is content creation, whether that's for an equestrian business or a horse show or, a private barn, anything like that. Just making them high quality photo and video content to stand out and to really, be able to tell the story of their brand. But we also do press releases. We also do, social media management, PR relations. So reaching out to sponsors or, magazines and stuff to get future articles and that kind of thing. So a little bit of everything. But our main emphasis, I would say, is on that content creation. And I've really found a niche with that I enjoy working with the horse shows themselves.
Yeah. So this is a very unpredictable lifestyle, though. Do you have a home base? Do you have like an actual apartment
Sure.
complex? Or yeah, you're still in your mother's basement,
Yeah, so when I moved up to West Palm to Wellington, I moved out of my parents because they lived down in Fort Lauderdale, and I was kind of just jumping from apartment to apartment depending on who I was working for, and even just packing clothes, every few months got frustrating. So I actually bought an RV because rent was crazy down there, and I thought
Yeah,
this
well,
would
yeah.
be a cheaper way to go. So I bought my starter RV and I lived in that for about 3 years, and then I bought the RV that I have now, which is basically an apartment on wheels. It's a 45-foot fifth wheel toy hauler trailer. It's a monster. Every time I drive it, I'm like, this is ridiculous looking, but it's great because I can just take it with me. And then wherever I go, I have my entire house. I have all my clothes. I have my pets. We have everything, and I can't say it's the easiest to get around, but it's definitely been some adventures taking it different places. And once I get it parked, it's great because then there it is. But
You're there. You're there.
yeah.
So you spend how much time do you spend on the road?
It's gotten a little less crazy in the last year or so. I was doing about 6 months up north and 6 months down south in Florida. Now I'd say I'm up north about 3 or 4 months, and then the rest of the time I'm in Florida. There's still a good amount of travel by air and stuff for, smaller shows. I'll take the RV if it's, 2 or 3 weeks or longer. If it's just a week or 5 days or something like that, I usually try to fly because it's a lot to pack up and move for that short of a time.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been great. I mean, I didn't realize there was an option to, not sweat and be miserable all summer than just being in Florida. So, the first summer that I was out of Florida for the summer, I was like, this is great. So,
So
uh,
I would think that each show has its different personality. What are they like? What are your favorites? And what ones are the ones that like, well, yes, it's a job.
yeah, I think they all are unique, honestly. And I can't say that there's anyone that I have gone to that I wouldn't go back to. I think, WEF was always going to be my first love because that's where I got my start with grooming, with the media stuff, everything. Um, I think Traverse City was one of my favorite places because that's where I first really traveled to the first time when I started my business. And it was
What show is there? What show is that?
it's called Traverse City Horse Shows, and it's in Traverse City, Michigan. And it's gotten really big over the last couple years, but just, the venue, the town is exceptional. And I made a lot of good longtime, friends in the industry up there. I just went to the Aiken Horse Park for the Aiken Charity Classic last year, and that was just a really cool, different environment. I'd never gotten to be in Aiken. And they had amazing hospitality there, and it was, just a fun little boutique event. Hits Saugerties in New York, in Hudson Valley. That's a gorgeous venue. And the town is adorable, but like the venue is just so nice, and you get to see a lot of like really top level action there. Washington International Horse Show is another one I do, and that's just a week, but like it's a really, really top team that puts on, incredible production. We have everything from like the nicest hunters to, FEI classes, and a Nations Cup qualifier there. So that's always it's a hard week, but it's always a really fun week, and you feel really, successful at the end of it. So I think they all bring something to the table, and I think, everything from a schooling show up to the Winter Equestrian Festival, you can find the good and the bad in everything.
So what are some of your absolutely favorite memories? You're sitting there thinking, I can't believe I'm here. I will remember this forever. I could die a happy woman now. One of the
Yeah.
did you have any like really outstanding memories and outstanding people?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've met a lot of great people. Jen Wood, who I said I did one of my first internships for, she has just always been supportive and always been, helpful to me. Like she's a great role model as far as, being in this industry. And we still work together really well to this day. We work on a couple different shows together throughout the year and just always click and get along. And she works hard. She puts in the 16-hour days, like, and just because she's top level in her company, she doesn't slack off. And I would say Lindsay Brock is another one too, who she actually was working with Jen Wood when I met her, and now she's part of the owner of her own company, Gable, and she was the one that I really learned from as far as video quality and, making good videos and interviews and that kind of thing. And she taught me a lot. I worked with her in Traverse City for like 3 summers, and just the creative side of it and the production side of it, she really brought a whole different level of that to me and taught me how to edit a proper video. And again, works super hard. And is always like wonderful to be around. There's so many people that I work with in this that are just, it's long days, it's stressful, but like they're just, they're great people and they want to teach and encourage, the next group of people to do it. I think standout wise memory for me, I mean, going to World Cup finals in Omaha a couple years ago was awesome just because, it's World Cup finals. So that's pretty insane. And I think the first summer that I did Traverse City, I was there for the American Gold Cup. So in 2021, that was a couple years ago. But that had been, that was the year I lost my horse. That was the year I started my business. And so the beginning of that year had been really, really awful. And then just to be at that venue and feel like the electricity of the day, and it was perfect weather and everyone was, on their A game to produce a great show and a great event that day. And the American Gold Cup is iconic. And it was just kind of like, wow, we really like made something out of this. We set up this business not knowing what was going to happen. And like, we really made something out of this. And it was really cool.
You're sitting there thinking, and they're paying me for being
Yeah,
here.
exactly. Anytime anybody was like, sorry, I know it's a long day, I was like, it's really not compared to the days that I'm used to. So,
Oh, yeah.
really
So now,
okay.
do you have you told me you now have another horse and that is a very special story as well.
Yeah. So I had bought and sold a couple other horses after my heart horse died.
What was his name?
But his name was Abraham.
Okay.
Yeah, and he was a very plain little name, and he was a plain little horse. He was probably 15-2 on a good day, but had just a heart of gold and would jump anything you put in front of him. And I mean, just so cool. It's just, and we did everything together. He would just get on the trailer with me, or we would go trail riding for hours together. And like, he was just my guy. And so I bought and sold a couple other ones, and they just never really felt like my horse, and I kind of had accepted the fact that maybe I wasn't going to have that again, that kind of bond. And then I was scrolling through Facebook and I saw a photo of a blonde horse in a field, and I scrolled back because I was like, I don't remember taking that photo of him. And it was not my horse. It was a sales ad for a 2-year-old sitting in a field. And I got chills up my entire body, and was like, that's my horse, but it's not my horse. And so I went out to meet him, and, he immediately felt like my horse. And so I bought him because, that seems rational with my life being the way it is. And I never had a young horse like that. And it's just crazy. He was born 11 months after my horse died.
Oh,
So like
wow.
the gestation period, and he has a really crazy marking on his left shoulder. It goes about from his, like the side of his face here, down his shoulder and down his leg. And it's actually, my dad took a picture when my horse passed away, of me laying with the horse as we were waiting for the truck to come. And it's the exact spot where I was laying on the horse.
wow.
I still get chills talking about it. So, and he didn't have that when I first met him. He got off the trailer and I was like, what is that? And it's a birthmark, like it lives there now. So, I don't know how, I don't know if it's reincarnation or if he was sent or what, but and he's blonde. He's same color as my horse, flaxen mane and tail. So he's been great, and it's just brought so much of my passion back into the actual horses.
What is his name?
His name is Yankee.
Okay.
So yeah, I call him Doodle. That's like my little pet name for him.
Every horse has more than one name. It's the official name and then all the others.
Exactly. So yeah, and it's been really great to have, a mascot for the company again.
Oh, yeah. You see yourself doing anything else in the future, or is this going to be for the time being, and you'll see what happens down the line?
You never say never. Things can always change. I mean, I couldn't have pictured any of this 10 years ago. But I love, getting to come to horse shows and getting to, meet different people and see. I get to pet a horse every day, even if it's not my own. I get to pet a horse every day, and go to all these cool places. And like, again, they pay me to run around horses with a camera. Like, I mean, at the end of the day, I'm like, that is not a hard job. It's pretty cool. So, yeah, I can't see any reason I would change it.
No, you're just perfect. This is just too great. Well, thank you. And for you folks, if you want to learn more about Flaxen Mane Media, the contact information is in the show notes or the comments, depending on whether you're listening or watching. And Summer, thank you so very, very much. I appreciate you doing this and your patience with all the technical stuff we had at the beginning.
Oh, trust me, I know how technology is, but no, I really appreciate you having me on, and this has been really, really fun to chat about.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Well, that's it for this week's episode of Riders of a Certain Age presents Conversations Beyond the Barn. If you enjoy it, subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Please leave a comment and suggestions for future shows, guests, topics, interesting equine activities. I'd love to hear about them, so would everybody else. And while you're at it, you can support the podcast by buymeacoffee.com/certainage. Support Conversations Beyond the Barn. Thanks for listening. I'll see you next week.